Hey you guys, and welcome back to Realty Rights, to another little episode. Tonight I thought I'd just change things up a little bit. I know for the last few weeks we've been doing a lot of airplane videos, because after all I want to do reviews on airplanes at some point. In order for me to do that, I got to get back into the currency thing. But I haven't forgotten about my car enthusiasts and my motorcycle brothers and sisters out there. So today we're doing a how-to video on how to install a 5-hole point cover on a 2-hole point bike, which would be Ironhead Sportsters, which in this case would be an Elvira, which is our 1973 Sportster. And it's an Indian Larry point cover that I got for my wife years ago that I wanted to install. I finally have the time to do it. And before we do our next airplane video, I wanted to do a little how-to video for my motorcycle friends out there, and I hope you enjoy the video. So a few years ago for Christmas, my wife gave me this really beautiful Indian Larry point cover made of aviation grade aluminum. Really nice, very shiny, gorgeous. But unfortunately, as you notice, it has 5 holes. It's designed for the more modern bike, the Evo bikes, and the larger twins, not necessarily the Ironhead or the Shovelhead. As you can see here on Elvira, she has her standard 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock hole position. This point cover is fine. The lift to right Eagle Spirit point cover is great, but they're very common, and it's beautiful, but I'm looking forward to putting the Indian Larry one on because I have one on Little Wing, and it just, you know, kind of makes the bike look a little bit cooler. A few years ago, Indian Larry was actually making 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock position point covers, 2-hole point covers for the Ironhead and the Shovelhead bikes, but lately in their catalog they don't show that any longer, and they're really kind of hard to get a hold of. So I decided to go ahead and make a plate and do a little fabrication to get that 2-hole point cover on Elvira, because I like the way it looks here on Little Wing a lot. So I bought some aluminum sheet stock here, which was 0.64 times 4 times 10 inches. Here it is right here. So I made 3 perfect circles based upon the gasket that I have for the point cover, and I made 3 circles with the 12 o'clock and the 6 o'clock holes, and thought I could use my awful Harbor Freight a bandsaw, but it doesn't really work a lot well because the blade is just not straight, and I can't seem to get it straight for some reason. I'm actually thinking of getting rid of this thing at some point because it's just really a useless tool. So I decided to go ahead and use my little Dremel 200i, and let me see if I can cut that thing into a circle and then attach it onto the bike. Another thing that I did also to kind of make it easier to cut, I used a punch and I basically scribed all the way around that circle. The mark that I made with the scribe like 4 or 5 times to kind of give it a little bit of a notch right here so that the Dremel can catch into it. It'll be easier for me to rotate it around. And these are some of the cuts that I made with the Harbor Freight bandsaw. Terrible cuts. So those are the cuts that I made with the Dremel. This little piece here is already to come off. And I'm just going to make a series of cuts around this little triangle here on the bottom, work my way around, and then cut this whole thing off, and then just, you know, kind of sand the circle to make sure that it's perfectly round all the way around, and that I'll attach that to the actual existing 2 holes that are on the bike now. So the Dremel was doing a relatively decent job, but it was really getting kind of sketchy. It kept stalling and jamming on me, so I decided to do a little bit more of the larger cuts with my hacksaw with a carbide blade, and it seems like it's cutting nice and straight. So what I'm going to do is cut the circle off this little plate and then work my way around the circle with the hacksaw and a little bit with the Dremel and a little bit with the sander, and hopefully it'll come out nice and round. By the way, I've never done this before, you guys. I just, just kind of like had this in my mind to do, and we'll see how it all works out. Hopefully it'll turn out great, and you guys can use this video for your own project as well. So since the hacksaw was working so well, I decided to make a really perfect straight line. Instead of cutting from those existing cuts that I had made earlier, make a perfectly straight line and cut this around the perimeter of the circle around the point cover that I wanted to keep. And then once that's all done, then I'll go ahead and cut these little triangles off with the hacksaw and then trim them up with the sander. And hopefully it'll all turn out great, nice and round, and I can install it on the bike.
Got a 2-ton weight from my hairline to my backbone, and it's dragging me around, but I don't listen. All you critics on me, mind your own business. That's right. And I run red lights. Now watch me try.
So far so good. It came pretty close to the scribe line right there. Just gotta cut that little tip off and I can work my way around the triangles now. So that hacksaw work really did a really good job. You can see it's really close to the circle line here. There's a little bit of a gouge on the right side, but I can sand that down. So now I'm going to very carefully just trim these little triangles off and then sand it down with a file and with my belt sander and see if I can make this nice and round and get this thing started and install it on the bike. So now I'm going to try to use my orbital sander to kind of sand around the pen mark that I made, the scribe mark, to make this thing as round and smooth as possible. I already did a little bit right here. It seems like it's coming together relatively good, but I just got to go really carefully around that little line so that I don't go into it too deep. Then it will be off-centered and it'll look stupid, because I'm trying to keep this thing is going to be the seal for the actual point cover itself. Of course, when the Indian Larry cover goes on top of that, it'll be double sealed, but this one right here is where the gasket will be connected to. So it's important that I stay within those little lines, make it as round and smooth as possible. So the point cover came out pretty good. Here's the Indian Larry cover and the 5-hole, and this is the 2-point. This is going to be the one that's going to replace the existing cover that's on Elvira right now in the 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock positions. Then I'll drill 1, 2, 3, 4 more holes into this guy right here, and then that plate will be attached as such onto the actual bike. So you can have the 5 holes even though it's only a 2-hole cover, and it'll be attached to this little plate that I just made, and that will give the bike a little bit more of a distinction and a cooler look. So you can see here, this is the exposed point location, the bottom hole, the top hole, which will be attached to the new backing plate, and I should have clearance here all the way around for the new 4 screws so they won't touch any of the electrical components here. And then I'll attach the whole thing together and we'll see how it all turns out here in a minute. So it's very important to position the gasket properly on the 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock holes so that when the backing plate's attached to it, it will create a decent seal for the electronics that are underneath that cover and underneath the gasket. So now I drilled the 12 o'clock and the 6 o'clock holes into the actual attached plate that I just made. And there is the original Harley Davidson gasket, and it fits perfectly in there. So now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attach it to the bike and see how it looks. So it looks really good. So far I put just the top fastener on there to see how it would fit with the plate. So the plate is still overlapping a little bit larger than the circumference of the Indian Larry point cover. So I'm going to do a little bit of trimming. But it does look like I can go ahead and position all the other holes, because the cover that I just made, the holes fit perfectly in the 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock position, and I'll drill the other 4 holes that will be just basically, you know, blank holes with really cool little fasteners in them as decorative items, but they're just going to be fastened to the actual plate. They won't be fastened to the bike. So yeah, that's what it looks like so far. I think it looks really awesome. Let me see if I can finish this project for you guys. So what I realized, in order for the bottom hole to clear, I had to use a Phillips head. That's a screw that is a little countersunk. So I made a little countersink here in the actual plate. And what I'm using here is the snub nose part of a step drill. And just very carefully making a little countersink so that the Phillips head will seat in there nice and flush, so it won't have a bump on the bottom of the backing plate and the new point cover. So as you can see here, it is pretty flat. So when the new cover is resting on top of this backing plate, hopefully it won't have too much of a gap on the bottom of it right here, but it looks like it's pretty tight. Well, success, you guys. It looks much better than it did before. I mean, nothing was wrong with the other point cover, except Indian Larry has always been a mentor to me and probably thousands of other motorcycle builders across the country. We all miss his guidance, and we miss his humor, and we miss his, you know, his videos. So with any luck at all, this will work. I just started the bike up. It ran great. Looks great. It's an homage to Indian Larry. So thanks again for watching, you guys. Hope this video was helpful. If it was, send me a like and a comment, and definitely subscribe. Trying to get to 1,000 here really soon, and I'll be going back to airplane videos here in another few days. But right now, I wanted to help my motorcycle brothers out by putting a 5-hole point cover on your 2-hole point cover Ironhead Sportster or Shovelhead bike. Thanks for watching Realty Rides, you guys. We'll see you on the next ride.